Hey guys, this is Kalie from Expats Everywhere. We just want to let you guys know that recently we had to pull down a couple of our Saudi Arabia videos due to heightened security risks there. This is just a temporary thing though, so sit tight, and in the meantime we have other members on our staff who live or have lived in Saudi Arabia, and we're going to put those videos up for you instead.
Hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. If you could tell us your name, where you're from, and a little about yourself.
Sure, my name is Kalie and I'm from Florida in the United States. I've been living abroad now for about 8 years, just teaching in different countries, and I'm married and have a dog.
What countries have you worked in?
I've worked in Spain, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. Pretty much anything with an S.
What was it like working in Saudi Arabia?
It was different. I think sometimes when people ask, I say it's kind of like living on a different planet. There's nothing really that you can compare it to. Not in a bad way, not that it was negative or very bad, but it's just very different to what we're used to in the West.
What kind of jobs are available?
In Saudi Arabia, mainly I knew teachers. There's also a lot of jobs in the oil industry though. So teaching is really big there, and then like Aramco in the oil industry. But I think there are also other engineer type jobs. I think there's a variety, but it's kind of hard to get out and meet those types of people. You kind of stick with the group of the job that you are. So it's a little harder to meet people in other professions, I think, that are Western.
Right, so this is for English-speaking expats?
Right, because there are a lot of migrant workers. They bring in a lot of workers, like the Filipinos, will do like the maid type stuff. You also have them in the service industry, mainly Indians and Bangladeshis in construction. So there are a lot of expats there, but as far as Western expats, I would say most of them are the ones teaching in the oil, engineering, those types of industries.
Now, when you say Western, are you talking about exclusively British and American?
No, I just mean Western culture and mindset. So Canadians, even Australians, South Africans. I guess the native English-speaking countries, we all kind of have a bond that puts us together, being native English speakers. So I'm talking more about culture and things like that when I say Western.
What did a typical day look like at your job?
For my company, we had 2 different start times, so you would rotate every other day. One was the early time and one was a little later, like 6:30 and 8 were the different times that you would be picked up. So I lived on a compound and I worked for a university, and guys and girls go separately because females teach females and males teach males. So we would get on the bus, we would get to work. The way that ours was is we would teach for an hour or two, then have a break, lunchtime, then teach another hour or two, and then have like a prep period. And if you were in the morning, the early morning intake, you left like around 2, and the other one around 3. So it was actually really easy and manageable, and you'd get home at a really decent hour in the afternoon.
How much can you expect to earn at a job like this, or just in general at other jobs in Saudi Arabia?
It depends, again, on your job, and that's something that you'll want to do a bit of research for, but I think anywhere from 3,000 USD up to 6,000 USD a month. So you can make a lot, and you can save a lot as well, because normally everything's paid for, especially if you live on a compound. You don't have to pay for housing or utilities. Food is very cheap. It's subsidized for everyone. So food is cheap, and phone, internet, all of that ends up being very cheap. So you can make a lot of money and you can save a lot of money as well.
So if we're going on the lower end of this spectrum, do you think that this is enough money, and what kind of lifestyle can you live?
It's definitely a lot of money and definitely enough. You can make a good amount and you can save a good amount and live a really good lifestyle. The main thing is there's just not much to do in Saudi, so there's really not a lot to spend your money on. They don't have movie theaters, they don't have different activities where you can go and be social, because that's not part of their culture. So you can go to the mall, and do some shopping or Starbucks, things like that. but there's just not much to do off of the compound, and your compound will vary. Some have grocery stores and everything on them. Others are just like small little suburb communities. So you can have a good lifestyle. You can generally travel a good amount too, depending on your job. And it's easy to fly in and out of Saudi or cross the border into Bahrain, depending on what part of Saudi that you're in. You watch a lot of TV shows and movies if the internet is working. You pick up different hobbies. You work on school. Some people do a master's program or something like that for school. So the money that you get, you can save a lot, you can have a really good lifestyle, but it's not going to be the same type of lifestyle you would think with a lot of money in the West, I think.
So taking into consideration your budget and how much you spent per month, how much can you save?
Again, that would depend on how much you travel, I think. If you stayed in Saudi during all the different breaks and didn't travel, 25,000 a year USD. But even if you did travel, you could probably, as long as you didn't go too crazy on certain things, you could save $15,000 a year.
How much money do you need to start up?
That will depend on what visa you're on. If you have an Ikama, which is the best visa really to get, it's hard to get because you have to do a lot of medical things before, and there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stamps you have to get, things like that, and that can be expensive. Generally, your company should reimburse you for that, but you have to pay it up front. So you want to have about $1,000 just to do all that stuff, and then you'll have to pay for your flight. Some companies book the flight for you, others reimburse. All of them should do something, though. You shouldn't get to Saudi without the company paying for something like that. So if you're on the Ikama, I would say maybe have $1,500 ready to go, and that's just to get you to Saudi. And then once you're in Saudi, it's generally easier because your housing is paid for. So maybe around $1,500 to get started up.
How should someone pack to move there, and what's the weather like?
It's very hot and dry, but in the winter it actually does get cool. I think a lot of people think it's the desert, so it's just hot all the time. But it does get cool. In the winter, I would wear little sweaters. I even had boots that I could wear because when you're teaching, you have to dress conservatively, so you generally have to dress with the females 3/4 sleeves or long sleeves, and then long skirts or long baggy pants all the way down to your ankles. So you'll definitely want to pack those types of skirts, conservative, conservative up top, nothing too tight, things like that. You want to have a couple sweaters or so for the winter, and then it's hot, so when you're on the compound, you can walk around in tank tops and shorts. So comfortable baggy clothing is the best. And for the guys, generally you have to be very dressed up. So dress pants, ties, things like that.
What are some things that you cannot find in Saudi Arabia that you recommend people should bring?
There's not a lot that you can't find. I think they have a lot of it, and it's not necessarily too expensive to get. It's just, it'll be kind of different. I guess for the ladies, tampons would be hard to find. Maybe a certain type of deodorant that you like. If you use certain facial products or shampoos, anytime you move out of your home country, it's best to, if you can, if you have the space in your suitcase, take those with you because sometimes you can't find the exact brand that you want. So if you're very picky with, my hairstyle is like this, I definitely need this type of shampoo or else it's going to be like poofed out or really gross, then bring that with you. You might be able to find it, but it's better to have it up front rather than get there and be miserable because you don't have it. So any type of luxury thing that you're brand loyal to, just go ahead and bring that. But for the most part, anything generic, you can still find. It might just look a little different to you, but you can find it.
So this is a big topic, especially in regards to Saudi Arabia. How safe is it there, and did you feel safe on a personal level? Did you have any episodes that you'd like to share with us?
I felt safe. I mean, you live on a compound, and so the compound has high walls, barbed wire. You've got guards with guns at the entrance, police. So, I guess that could be a bit weird at first. It is their effort to keep you safe. Like, I prefer not to walk around outside of the compound often. If I did, I went with groups. Because, with the females, you've got to be completely covered in the abaya, and you should cover your hair. And so I just felt more comfortable not going by myself. And our compound offered a van that drove you to all the places that you would need to go anyway. I never really wanted to walk around by myself. I knew we did have girls who did that, and nothing ever happened to them, but sometimes they would get harassed. Like, guys would yell things out the window as they drove by, and things like that. So the guys aren't really great with dealing with women, how to deal with women or how to treat women, especially foreign women. Were they unsafe when that happened? No, but it's a bit uncomfortable, I guess. And as far as just the region being one that people get scared of, I never had any episodes while I was there. We did try to take precautions just in case. For example, our bus to and from work would take different routes to and from the university, just in case someone was plotting something. They didn't know our exact route every day to plan something like that. So I think that there are those risks that occur. You have to be careful with. I didn't feel unsafe. I guess the main thing that I felt unsafe about is the driving. The driving's terrible there. They have lights. They don't really use them, kind of. They're just very crazy drivers. You see an accident every single day. So on a day-to-day basis, the safety thing would be for driving. But for terrorist kind of things, I would say I didn't really feel that. But it's always in the back of your mind because you're taking precautions just in case that would happen. I did know people who were robbed, but they were also kind of out in the desert and not in the best places. So that stuff does happen there, but nothing ever happened to me.
So living on a compound, how did you meet people and what can you do for fun?
Well, since you're on the compound, you kind of just automatically are friends with your coworkers. You work together, you live together, but everyone has different personalities. So you tend to find the person that you mesh with that has the same interests as you. And if you don't like someone, you can stay away from that person. It's not like because you live on a compound, you have to be friends with everyone. So you just start talking and find interests, and that's how you meet people. And then a lot of compounds will have different activities. The smaller ones are generally, they'll have like a clubhouse or something where you can play games, or maybe there's a pool table or a community TV where you can watch sports, things like that. A swimming pool, you can set up different games. The bigger compounds actually have like soccer fields or gyms, like where you can play basketball. So it depends on your compound, but there's lots of things to do. I liked going out to the pool. A couple of the girls would get together and we would just do our nails, and we would call it like a spa day. Each of us would bring different products that we had brought from somewhere else on a vacation and just try different things out. So there's definitely that stuff available: playing games, playing sports, working out, just watching TV or movies, things like that.
Do you think that Saudi Arabia is a good travel hub? Why or why not?
It's actually in a really good location. You can get to Africa very easily. They have a lot of flights too. Anywhere in the Middle East, it's easy to travel. It's not too far from Europe. I guess the hardest would be getting out to Asia. It's still not that bad. Sri Lanka from the east part of Saudi is about 5 hour flight. So it's actually in a really good location, and they have a lot of flights in and out of Saudi. So I think it is a really good travel hub for the Middle East and for lots of different parts of the world.
Well, to wrap this up, what are the pros and cons of living in Saudi?
The pros is you make a lot of money, and you can save a lot of money. Again, there's not much to spend on unless you travel and go crazy on your travels. But you can really save a lot of money. So if you have student loans or are saving up for a project, things like that, it's a good place to go to save, even if you just want to do it for a year. So that's great. Another pro is it's just a different lifestyle. You get to see a different culture that a lot of people don't get to see, that they know nothing about, only what we're told in the news or things like that. So you get to experience that culture for yourself. For cons, I would say that it can be pretty boring in Saudi Arabia. There's just not much to do. They don't have the social things that we're used to, so you can get kind of bored. Also, it can be a little uncomfortable culturally, so you have to take that into consideration. You have to kind of think, can I deal with that? Do I want to deal with that? Is it worth it before you go? So just know that you're not going to go in there and change the way they think. So you have to learn to adapt and make sure that it doesn't bother you. Also, the internet's not that great. It's hard to stream things or download things. It takes a long time, especially when there are prayers, and the prayers are 5 times a day. So that happens a lot. So it can, again, that's another thing that makes it boring, is you can't do as much online. It's hard to Skype or FaceTime people back home because just the connection is really bad.
Kalie, thank you so much for contributing to Expats Everywhere.
You're welcome. Thank you.